The Miller household was in an uproar that morning. It all began with Sarah, the youngest daughter of Claire and Michael, demanding special treatment yet again. "Mom, why can't you just buy me my own place?" Sarah argued. "Am I less than Emily? She's living large in a fancy 2-story house, while I can't even get a studio apartment." Claire, for the second time that morning, poured some heart medication into a glass of water and tried to reason with her daughter. "Sarah, we've been through this," she sighed. "Emily earned her house with her own hard work. Her business took off, and she was able to afford it. We simply don't have the money to buy you an apartment. Where would we even come up with a down payment? I don't care, just buy me my own place. And the money, that's your problem. Take out a loan or something," Sarah huffed. "When I find a husband, where will I bring him? This cramped 3-bedroom. This place is embarrassing, with outdated furniture and peeling wallpaper. I can't even have friends over." Michael, struggling to control his frustration, spoke up. "Sarah, your mother and I worked our tails off to buy this apartment. When you and Emily were kids, we saved every penny while living in rented apartments," he reminded her. "Get a job, save up, and buy your own place with a mortgage. Don't expect us to support you forever. Your mother and I are getting close to retirement. And hey, you have your own room with a door now, remember? There's nothing stopping you from bringing a future spouse here," he reasoned. "But I don't want to live with you," Sarah shouted. "I want my own place." Michael lost his patience. "Enough with the tantrums. I'm not kidding, Sarah. You're a grown woman who's never even held a job. You expect us to keep supporting you. Have you ever even bought groceries with your own money? No. Yet you have the nerve to yell at us, demanding your own apartment. You owe me. What kind of parents are you anyway? You spoiled me rotten growing up. Emily got everything: new clothes, fancy makeup, expensive shoes, while I got her leftovers," Sarah complained. "After all these years, you owe me a big one, enough for a studio apartment, at least." Slamming her door, Sarah retreated to her room. Claire looked at her husband, defeated. "Maybe we should talk to Emily for help, Michael. This is getting out of hand. Sarah's having meltdowns every day. Or maybe we should sell this place and get a smaller one so she can finally move out," she suggested. "Claire, if we give in now, she'll never learn to be independent. She's relied on us for everything her whole life," her husband countered, shaking his head. "Emily shouldn't have to deal with this. She's not responsible for supporting a grown woman. Let Sarah get a job and live on her own terms," he added. Claire couldn't understand where they went wrong with Sarah. They had always treated both daughters fairly. Veronica didn't get a new wardrobe every month while Sarah wore rags. Sure, Sarah sometimes wore Emily's clothes that were no longer in style, but hand-me-downs were normal in most families. Besides, those were just for home. Both girls had nice clothes for going out. It was usually the other way around: older siblings resenting the attention given to the younger ones. But in the Miller family, it was Sarah who constantly felt overshadowed by her older sister. The relationship between Sarah and Emily had been rocky since childhood. While Emily often let Sarah get away with things, protecting her and getting annoyed whenever their parents scolded her, Sarah would run and tattle to Emily in return. When Sarah was 15, she started dating a classmate. One day, she spotted him holding hands with Emily during lunch break and immediately told their dad, Michael. This, of course, led to punishment for Emily. Claire couldn't help but agree with her husband's reasoning. Giving in to Sarah's demands was impossible. Their youngest daughter had a fiery temper and ever-growing wants. Providing her with a separate apartment would only open the floodgates for future demands: expensive renovations, new furniture, maybe even a car or other extravagant purchases. Veronica was well aware of the strain Sarah put on their parents. She'd offered to help on numerous occasions. "Mom, how about Sarah comes and stays with me for a while? I have plenty of space, 3 bedrooms are empty. I could teach her how to do nail art or hairstyling, and then help her find a job at a salon. Dad's right, It's time for her to become independent. She's in her 20s, she suggested. Claire sighed. Oh, honey, I'm not sure. I worry Sarah's presence might cause problems between you two. I wouldn't want you to deal with any drama because of her. When Sarah once again badgered her parents about her own place, Michael reached his breaking point. He stormed into her room, throwing her things into a suitcase in a hurry. Sarah watched him calmly, convinced it was just an act. She knew he'd clean up the mess himself after blowing off steam. She'd make sure of it. Suitcase in hand, Michael marched to the stairs, grabbed his daughter's arm firmly, and guided her to the door, pushing her out of the apartment. That's it, I'm done. If you can't live here peacefully, then go live on your own. Until you learn to act like a decent person, don't even think about coming back. Once you get yourself together, then we can talk, he declared. Sarah stood there, confused. On the landing outside her apartment, she'd been kicked out. Claire came out and slipped a wad of cash into her daughter's hand, whispering softly, "Go, honey, stay at a hotel for a few days until your dad calms down. Think about what you've done, okay? I'll call you later." Sarah smirked, determined never to return to her father's house. She headed to a hotel and immediately started searching online for apartments and jobs. After all, she needed a way to afford her own place. The money her mom gave her wasn't enough for a whole apartment, so Sarah ended up moving into a shared apartment. With limited options due to her lack of experience, she took a job as a delivery person, far from what she had envisioned. Meanwhile, Veronica found out that her father had thrown her younger sister out. She talked to her husband, Greg, about how best to help. "Greg, maybe I should just buy Sarah a one-bedroom apartment. Our business is doing great, and we have the money to invest in real estate. It would ease the tension with our parents and help Sarah out of this mess," she proposed. Gregory shook his head in disagreement. "Mika, there's an old saying, give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. Your sister is used to getting everything handed to her. She needs to learn the value of hard work. If I were you, I wouldn't buy her an apartment," he advised. "Think about it this way, Nika. If you buy her an apartment, she'll become dependent on you forever. She might get married, have kids, and you could end up supporting her whole family. If you really want to help her, encourage her to go back to school. Maybe she has some dreams or goals she used to have. When she was younger, she must have had plans for the future, some ambition to be something," he suggested. Looking at her first paycheck, Sarah felt discouraged. After paying rent, there was barely enough left for groceries and transportation, let alone new clothes. Sarah considered reaching out to her sister for help. After all, Veronica was successful and might be willing to lend a hand with a small request. Veronica's wealth was the result of her own hard work and dedication. Ever since she was a kid, Veronica had been passionate about dance. What started as a fun hobby turned into something serious. Veronica competed all the time and won a lot of awards. By the time she hung up her dancing shoes, Veronica was a champion in international competitions and a very well-known dancer. One competition even gave her a prize of $2 million. Veronica was smart and used that money to open a small beauty salon with just 3 styling chairs. But Veronica didn't stop there. She kept growing her business and eventually owned several successful salons that made a lot of money. 3 years ago, Veronica married a man who was just as ambitious as her Greg, a successful and highly educated lawyer who owned a prestigious law firm in the city. Veronica contacted Sarah and offered her a generous deal. "Hey Sarah, why don't you come live with me? We can focus on your education. I'm willing to pay for any courses you're interested in. You could even consider going to college, and I'd help you find a job after that. We can figure out the housing situation together." Sarah readily agreed, recognizing the sense in her sister's suggestion. Okay, I'll move in with you. Maybe you're right. It's time for me to get my life together. I need to think carefully about what I want to study. It's important to choose a career that I'll actually enjoy, not just something to pay the bills, she replied thoughtfully. Veronica genuinely cared about her younger sister. When Sarah arrived at her house, Veronica handed her a debit card with a warm smile. Consider this a gift. Go buy yourself some new clothes. It's time to ditch the teenager wardrobe. I also made an appointment for you to get a haircut, color, and manicure at this place, she said, offering guidance. Don't worry, sis, your life is about to turn around. Have you thought about school at all? Veronica inquired. Sarah shrugged. Not really. Maybe law school. Why not? You can totally do it, Veronica encouraged. Greg can help you find a job after graduation. But for now, relax a little. We can talk more about school closer to fall. Veronica's decision to give her younger sister a card with money turned out to be a big mistake. Sarah quickly took advantage, buying expensive clothes and asking for even more gold rings, a watch, earrings, and necklaces. Decked out in her new things, Sarah went on a wild streak, partying at clubs with similar types of people, drinking too much, and generally enjoying a carefree lifestyle. Veronica didn't tell their parents about any of this, not wanting to admit her own part in Sarah's bad behavior. Despite trying to reason with her sister for 2 months, their conversations always turned into screaming matches. Sarah would explode, shouting, "You owe me for my lousy childhood. You lived in luxury while I got scraps. You owe me, big time. And it's not like I'm spending that much of your money anyway. You probably have millions hidden away." Grigory was getting increasingly unhappy with the situation. After putting up with it silently for a while, he finally called Veronica down for a serious talk. "Nick, I come home from work drained, looking for some peace and quiet. But how can there be any peace when your sister gets home from clubbing in the middle of the night, expecting the royal treatment with a hot bath?" Veronica stayed silent, uncomfortable, as Grigory continued. "Did you know that last week she tried to fire our cook? She said she has just as much say in the house as you do, and kicked out who she called a disobedient servant," Grigory revealed. Seriously, Veronica was surprised. "I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't want to add to your stress, Veronica. But there's something else." Grigory hesitated before confessing. "You came home late last night, but I was already up. I found Sarah in the living room, drinking whiskey straight from the bottle. I can hardly bring myself to say this, but your sister suggested I ditch you, the old wife, and marry her instead, the young and beautiful one," he divulged. Veronica gasped, completely shocked. "I shut down that conversation right away and went to our bedroom. Veronica, honestly, I can't stand living with her anymore. Can't we find a solution to this problem?" Grigory pleaded. In the morning, Veronica woke Sarah up from her drunken sleep and laid down the law. "While you were passed out here, I packed your bags. There's a cab waiting outside to take you back to your shared apartment. I left you an envelope with enough money for 6 months' rent. If you have any brains left, you'll find a job during that time. Consider this my last act of kindness. You think you can control my husband? I'm done with you." Sarah fought with everyone in her family and left for her shared apartment. Ignoring her sister's advice, she blew through the money in 2 weeks. To avoid being homeless, she sold off her belongings and all the gold jewelry she got from Veronica. Sarah refuses to take any blame for the conflict, convinced her parents and sister both neglected her. When her money runs out, she plans to go back to her delivery job to make ends meet. I hope you enjoyed this story. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more awesome stories in the future. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. and we'll see you next video.